Hello, hello. Um, so in today's random live stream, I'll be installing NixOS and NixOS or NixOS, and any way you want to pronounce it. Um, it's basically atomic updates based, so it uses a Nix package manager that does atomic updates, and I'll go into the detail of how it does it. But the thing is, the installation method is a bit more weird. It doesn't have like a proper installer the last time I checked, so I thought it would be fun to play around with it for a little while and show everyone how it's done. So I have my USB drive inserted, and we will just reboot so that it detects said USB stick. And here you can see it has SanDisk, but I would love to boot in UEFI mode, so I have to go and add it here and save changes and reset. So that should get things to work. Seeing YouTube saying that the audio is not right, so nope, the audio is perfect. Yeah, so this is new. I've never seen this before. Yeah, so they apparently have an installer, I guess. Let's check it out. So again, I wasn't aware of it. Earlier they used to have like a script based thing, so you just run that script in a live environment. I think they still do it, but it did say installer, so I am all confused. Let's see how this works out for us. And it's booting. It got the Intel DRM stuff enabled, so resolution and everything else is correct, which means if you're not watching at the high enough bitrate, it looks like crap. And that should start up the display environment anytime now. I am genuinely still waiting for something to happen. It's just black screen. Ah, finally a mouse. That's always nice. And come on. Ooh, fancy KDE logo. So they did switch over to Plasma. Oh no, they were already running on Plasma. My bad. Um, let's wait for everything else to load. And there you go. Yeah, I think they still don't have an installer. So I'll show you what I said about the installation being a lot more manual. Um, so it comes with a NixOS manual, and it's basically just an HTML file, and that redirects you to a particular instruction page, which did not happen. Firefox opened and then it decided to crash, and here it is again. I'll move myself up here. All right, so yeah, so we did the obtaining NixOS stuff. We have to do the install NixOS stuff. A lot of it is basically just just copy and paste a bunch of commands. So you of course start with the partitioning stuff. um, we do have network enabled. It's wired, so we don't have to set up Wi-Fi, and the system will never have Wi-Fi, so there's no use in trying that as well. So um, here we have a bunch of messages that I'm getting on my phone. Just a second. Right, so we have to figure out which disk we have. Let's go into we have console here, and then we can do quickly fdisk l sudo fdisk l, I guess. Uh-huh. And so we have SDA at 120 gig and then SDB at 230 gig, and we want to use the SDB. I am using a bit more space than required. I'm not sure how long I will use NixOS. This is sort of a platform where I always like change stuff and install and reinstall stuff. So, but I'll still give it enough room to breathe. So we'll do on the SDB. It's Evo 860, and so that should be snappy. I will actually do switch user. I hope that works. Nope. So sudo su, and that should work. And the reason I did this, most of the commands in this document are without sudo, so you know you have to copy each and every one of them, and you need to take care of sudo. So one thing I like to do before I install anything on any drive is I used to do, I used to just create a new partition table, but sometimes they keep a backup of their journals, of their logs, and you really need to clear all of that out before you can start fresh. And that has helped me stabilize a lot of things while I install new stuff on the same hard drive over and over and over again. Sometimes system had weird issues, so I always use wipe fs, and then a, and then name of the, you can actually use it without a, and it will show you the actual um, stuff that's on there. So so dev slash sdb, and so you can see I already have like three partition tables, and these are like three separate um, partition tables that are on there. We have PMBR, we have couple of different GPTs, and both of these GPTs will define a separate partition layout, and this MBR will define a separate partition layout. um, and usually the device has like one set as default, but if some program decides to scan what partitions on there manually, it will run into three different partition layout and either get confused or just use one of them and ignore the rest, and that ends up being weird. So what you need to do is you do wipe fs dash a, and that clears out all of them. So now this is a truly clean drive. Of course there's there's random crap data on it that can't be recovered. This is not overwriting it with zero. This is not the exact same stuff. It's a faster way to make sure there are no broken or unused partition tables laying around in the drive. This is not the secure wipe part. This is sort of a sanity check before you make a new partition table on it. So don't confuse this with override with zero, or the actual the data destroy stuff where it continuously writes random data so that no ghost data is left behind, especially on the magnetic drives. So yeah, this is not that. This is just to clear out any partition that has previously remained on this drive. Right, so with that said, we can start an actual partition. So we do use parted, and it's just like copy and paste a lot of it. That's mostly what we're doing. Again, I need to be cautious of making sure that we have SDB everywhere instead of SDA as it's shown here. So now we need to add so this will add two partitions, swap and um, Okay, so that is not correct. Again, this automatically like pressed entered on its own. Luckily, it asked for a yes or no question. Otherwise, I would have blown up my SDA drive, which would not have been good. Not that there's any useful data on it. So yeah, partition SDB, make part primary 512, and then 8 gigs of swap at the end. Not sure if all of that is necessary, but I'll let it stay. It's not sort of a long-term project anyway. So I do that, and that creates the partition. And then now we can create the swap partition, and then followed by um, the EFI and the EFI FAT32, and then the actual root FS, which huh I will let it go. We'll see what happens. Cool, so that ignored it. And then um this is our boot FS, and then in this step, the next one, we will set that as a bootable partition, so that the bootloader or EFI bootloader detects that. And so we just go into formatting. Now they use ext4, and since I'm using it on a proper SSD, I will use uh, XFS, because that has saved me a lot of time, and that seems to be done. And then we can also format the swap partition as swap. So paste that, and we go SDB, that is set up as swap, and we have the boot partition. See, again it tried to just press enter on its own, and there we go. Then we can actually do fdisk L again, and we can see what the partition layout looks like for us. So we have the 224 gig Linux file system, we have the 8 gig swap, and then the 512 or 511 megabyte EFI system. So yep, that's all good. That works for us. And then we can mount our drives, just the installation bit. So that's mounted, and then we need to, for UEFI, we need to make a boot folder on the boot drive. So we will use that, and we'll mount our boot partition into our root fs boot folder, and then we will enable swap, because I do have 4 gigs of memory, but I don't think it should be an issue, but since it suggests it, why not? And then again, this is how we start to install stuff, and I'll explain how NixOS works while it's installing. But first we have to generate a configuration, and then we can edit said configuration on our own, to match what our system looks like. Right, so this is our configuration editor. I will give it a bit more space so that I can see it. uh, right, let's start with the bootloader, under BIOS, in the boot system. and then you can see that it has system boot enabled, and is set to true, and then bootloader EFI can touch EFI variables, that is set to true. I don't think it's in really needed, but all right. And then we can change pretty much everything else on it. So we'll go from here. So we'll define our network host name as shredder, because that's sort of, I've named that PC, this PC apparently, and shredder. And then we use a DHCP. Oh, it's depreciated, huh? All right, I'll not use that then. It's already enabled DHCP for us. Configure, we don't need. Set international properties, I guess this is enough. And then we can set up console font as well. Set your time zone, I think it's called Asia Kolkata. Asia Kolkata, Calcutta. um well, made a bit of a mistake there. um what all do we need? So we can actually have a bunch of packages just ready for us on our install system. So it says wget vim, I gave it nano, come at me. From there I might move on to something like GL Mark 2, and it might send an error if the package is not available. Open Arena, Mine Test, just some of the graphics benchmark packages, something to have fun with. I do need a, okay, so some of the packages I leave out. I'll just have it till GL Mark 2. Because I do need to show everyone how to install packages in a thing, in this thing, or once the system is installed, and that should be interesting to see. And then let's see if we need any other packages. I don't think so. um just a second. Right, so I'll enable this. So we have GNU-PG. Do we install GNOME 3? Which is interesting. We do install SSH. We don't need firewall for the moment. Don't need printing. Enable sound. True. I don't know why that's even a question here. So we do enable X11, and we do enable lib input. We do enable KDE desktop. We need to create a user now, and this is the admin user because it's in wheel. And we'll call it RIC, which is usually my username basis. Yada yada yada. System state version, this is the bit that it will install. So looks like everything is set up. All I need is nano to do stuff. Apart from this, I don't think anything else is needed. We have wget, we have nano. That should be good enough, and it will install gnome and a bunch of stuff. I think I don't know if Firefox is part of the KDE package, but I'll install it. What else do I need at startup? I don't think anything else. So we'll exit this. Our configuration is saved, and all we have to do is run nix install. So nixos dash install, and that should take care of everything from there on. Um, So the way NixOS work, it's called a atomic update system. In general terms, Fedora calls it Silverblue. NixOS is based on the Nix package manager, so it's their atomic update system, which means that you can have saved system state in terms of packages and libraries installed in the root file system. So just before, and the easiest use case scenario is that just before you have um, did an update, you can create a snapshot, which basically means you can save the state of the system um, without the actual overhead of backing up an entire disk. So it's like instead of a few terabytes, you maybe gave away a few megabytes for that saved state. And then if your upgrade fails, you can just revert back to that state without having to re-image everything, yada yada yada. So it's a save state system, which can also mean you can have multiple active states. So if you're experimenting with different packages, you can go into an unstable state and then revert back to a stable state and go into unstable stable states. It can also mean that individual packages that you install actually install in a sort of a containerized environment, so they have their own states set up. So if I build a package from source inside NixOS, it's basically like if you go for um, Python, and Python has this virtual environment where you can install all the packages, all the pip packages you want, and then that stays for that virtual environment. The moment you exit, you cannot access the pip packages and the environment that was installed. So similarly, if I build something, I cannot, using a regular make file is not a thing here. So you have the make file, but you create this .nix file and you run it. So the .nix file will have all the required dependencies, all the environment variables, all the build art stuff. So you just run that Nix file. It creates an environment like in container. It gets all the packages, extra packages it wants, and then starts the build. And by the end of it, you actually have a build without having a polluted workstation environment. So, and you can do this for separate apps, if apps or if different projects need different um, version of the same libraries, so you don't have to install it, link it, and all that crap. The idea is that for every package you will create this .nix file and you just execute that, so it will download the packages with the versions that's required and then build that. So yeah, that's how NixOS works, and that is what exactly it's doing. You've mounted the root file system, you've mounted everything else, and you have that configuration.nix. All it is doing now is creating that environment in that area. So it's a different way to install stuff. It's a different way to work with it. I think it's all doing it over network. I don't know if there's a monitoring tool in KDE that can help me take a look at it, but let's see. I think this one. It's been a while since I've used KDE, so yeah. And yeah, the USB disk I'm booting from is kind of slow, so yeah, it's working. It's working the best it can. Let's see. Do I have water around here? Just yes, I do. Still waiting for cases. Got to show up. There it is. Okay, does it show network? Yep, there is network history. So it's not that much. It might just be copying it from the USB stick, and that's why it's sort of lagging when I open another app. Um, but yeah, the status line could be much better. Like this particular line, it's very hard to make out what is one of 31 built and what is something copied, and this particular, is it for a single package or something, or is it total? So maybe this can be made a bit better, so you can have this amount of total work done, this amount of current package done, and then three graphs one after the other rather than having it in this confused state. But yeah, it's working. um Surprisingly not taking a lot of memory at this moment. KDE has sort of gone from being a memory hog during the Plasma 4 days to being very conservative on memory for the Plasma 5 stuff. So that is nice, although not my daily driver. And then the CPU usage is kind of high because I have kind of a crap CPU running on this thing. Um, but it's doing its thing, it's working. So I guess if anyone else doesn't have a question, I'll let it running and I will come back once it's done. So here's a error that looks like it, and it was failed to set loader token EFI variable. Why is the path dash boot? I wonder if I have to run it inside of MNT. Is it? Do I have to CD to MNT and run it inside it? Um, mm, or have I forgotten something? Let me try it inside MNT because we have dash boot here, and let's try it now. Nope. Um, huh. That is weird. Oh, I forgot a few things. No wonder it's failing. Um, I need to set. Wait, no. I did set that. What the heck is it? Not happy with it. Yep, I did that. I did do that. Um, let's disable that. Let's set can't touch E5 variables to false. And X, Y, and now try that. Hey, see, now it works. So it needs a new password for root. Alright, I'll give it one. Installation finished. Was that it then? Um, Let us reboot. And I will do that by actually powering it off. That was quick. Someone uploaded a screenshot. Stop disk manager. Okay, are you going to stay here? No, it turned off. So we can remove this. Wait for the bootloader to show up. Oh, there it is, and then boot from Samsung. Save and reset and see if works. Will you boot? That's always the question. Hey, there it is. Um, so looks like it has two of the same installs. Not sure whether there are two of them, but let's boot this one. So again, the two options you saw were different snapshot shots, but it seems to be right now they are pointing towards this exact same one. Right now it should start up with KDE, and then we will look into how to install packages. Not sure if I even set up a password. All right, I didn't. See, I'll log in as root because I remember root's password. I mean, I can try to just log in without a password, then just not sure if I even set one. It looks like it set automatically and I forgot what I said. So I remember the root password because it specifically asked me for it. So not that I recommend login as root, especially with X11. I will just recover the other password and we'll go from there. So uh, okay, console ls. It should have a config somewhere. Mm, config. Uh, oh, see, don't forget to set a password with PASSWD. When do I do that? So we just go PASSWD or SC, set a password, set another. I don't think that matched. And that's it. So let's exit and log out and log back in as the proper user. Log out. And then go back to here. Ta-da! That worked. Alright, there you go. So far the install process was a bit weird, but for the most part it looks like a regular install. And we look at package installation and etc. But you can see you name A shows you the NixOS, and then can go cat etc OS release. It will show the version, this particular one, which is the current snapshot. And then I can also, so every time you install a package it creates it as a new snapshot. So a set of package installs is a new snapshot and you can always revert back. So I can see GL Mark 2 is installed, so I can run that, works fine. See how much performance we are getting compared to some of my older systems. So it's about the same, so 700 800 fps in the initial test. um, yeah, I have the system cooled, so we'll do something about that as well. I have a fan. It's not terribly loud, but I do want to teach people how to set up fan control on new Linux installs, so might not be the worst thing to try out. But let's see. Mm, package installs. There's no building NixOS, build your own releases, list of examples. So package management, there we go. We'll take a look at that. So that's the more complex way, I think. But yeah, so you can add packages via this Nix environment IE and then NixOS dot, so your repository dot something, and so that's, well, the repository or channel. And then I think there's a way to like commit the current environment so that it stays at reboot. I'm not sure. So if we check at nix dot dash env, uh, it opens up a man page. So we have fallback or rollback, and then install. Upgrade. You probably upgrade everything. Uninstall. Is there set flag? Query. I'm searching for something called commit, and switch profiles. So again, you can have separate profiles. As I said earlier, yep, rollbacks, and think it then commits on its own. Let's see what the NixOS install has to say. Um, Yep, install creates a new user environment based on the current generation of active profile to which set of server by default from profile flags we built only. So does dash I dash a. I guess let's just try a simple package install and see how that works out for us. Quit. So we do IA as far as the this thing tells us. Um, all right, so you use NixOS rebuild switch and or just NixOS rebuild. Well, we'll try it. So we'll do mine test. Actually, NixOS dot mine test, I think, and that will start it installing. I don't know if we need the mind test dash underscore game as well. Now, right. So if I run mind test now, it should work. And new create and play game. So again, this is working. Now I want to see if it reboots and sets up properly. Uh, it seems to be working fine. And then you can exit to OS, and then I'll see if rebooting creates a new wait, sudo reboot systemctl. So let's see what changes it did to other things. Hey, and there's a power cut. Perfect. So still the same, and I fear that mine test is now either on a separate. So it, for every package you do, it creates a separate soft link. It creates a separate environment and creates a soft link that is available. So now I am guessing mine test should run, but I should be able to roll back to a previous version, and then we'll see what the rollback looks like. So mine test exists. Let me see next environment. Then if I do a rollback, right? So that is now set. So next, env info. And so for rollout, do I create a separate? Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying it out for the first time as well. But let's try and figure out NixOS. Package management. Go there again, and we'll go into the ad hoc package management. From there, NixOS, and let's see version. Does that show us? Okay. Option. So let's try rollback with Open Arena, and if we go and install Open Arena here, I mean, so you can basically set separate environments and then do installs on them and then use that environment. But I guess if you reboot it without creating like and installing it on a separate environment, so NixOS env will give you that. Next env. So if I go and new tab, so if I go to nix dash env, um, so I guess it's just installing it right now. Well, yeah, so I had some network issues, but you can see OpenArena is running fine, and I can exit that. And as we saw, there were generations. If we go back to here, and now if I do a rollback, it will roll back the generation and remove the changes I did in this generation. And then if I do less generation, it will roll back, and then I can run OpenArena and command not found because hey, that's all gone. And then I can do set generation. Not sure what the hell that was. I hope the let's see, fall back. Um, Switch generation, and you can then capital G. So I can actually do NixOS G and go back to generation 2, and from here you can see I can then again run open arena, and that will work. So I guess that's it. I have no electricity, stuff disconnects, and the room is getting hot because the air conditioner is dead. Um, so I'll do another live stream soon, something more interesting. I did cover most before I got disconnected, so no, not a bad stream on my end. Um, I did want to show people how to set up fan control and fan profile on Linux, but I guess I'll do it in another stream. So for the time being, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye bye.